Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatley Tone's Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video. Hope you're all doing well. In today's video I want to talk about the Beatles UK core album remix project, the Deluxe Box Sets then, if you like. And I want to ask what I feel is a fairly pertinent question, and one that's probably either in the minds or on the lips of sort of most Beatles fans, and that is, do Apple actually know what they are doing as far as this this project goes? Do they know where they're going with it? Because they've taken a real sort of scattergun approach to this project right from the start. There have been inconsistencies along the way, but more recently the issues from Apple and Universal Music have been more and more random, I feel. And I'm wondering if there is at any point that Apple will decide to actually listen to what the fans want, what they are asking for, before putting together a package. I don't know how Apple do their market research, but one thing's for sure, there are plenty of resources for them to find out how fans are thinking and what they want, and consequently take a percentage view on that as to what would be a successful and high selling release. Now those resources, hundreds of Beatles centric YouTube channels, all with videos with comments from hundreds of fans, telling them what they want. There are Facebook groups, loads of them, loads of Beatles Central Facebook groups. There's the Hoffman Forum. So there are plenty of resources for them to find out what Beatles fans are thinking. What is it that they want? And if they know what Beatles fans want, or the majority of what Beatles fans want, then they know what they need to put out to make the most profit for the company, which is the purpose of the company. Let's be honest about that. From my personal point of view, with these deluxe box sets, the thing that is most important to me, and I know this isn't the same for everybody, but the thing that is most important to me is to get a good stereo remix of the main album, because in 2024 it is ridiculous, it's utterly ridiculous that we have got and had for decades these poor stereo versions of the albums that we love, where you've got this dreadful panning, with the music on one channel, the vocals on the other channel, and this huge separation between them, and also little mistakes that went out on the stereo versions. Paul's voice cracking in If I Fell, that terrible edit that we got in I Am the Walrus. So it's really important to me that we get good stereo versions of these albums, because this is how everybody listens to these records these days. It wasn't always the same, but at the moment, mono for a lot of these albums is still king. It's still king because it doesn't contain all those little mistakes that they made when they did the stereo mixes, but and it doesn't have that dreadful panning. But we shouldn't be listening to mono records in 2024. A lot of people would argue with me on that, and I would argue back. Because they would say, well, mono was how the Beatles, intended the records to be heard. But that which is true. But how we are listening to mono records now is not how they listened to mono records in the 60s. They listened to mono records on poor equipment through one speaker you know, and if there was too much bass on a record, you know, it would make the needle vibrate on the record, and that is not how we listen to music now. We listen to them on sophisticated hi-fi systems, and you know, other forms of media reproduction. But you know, I mostly listen to my music on my hi-fi system, and you know, when I listen to a mono record, I'm not hearing it in proper true mono, because I don't have a mono cartridge on my turntable, and the music is coming out of two speakers. You know, when you listen to a mono record on stereo equipment, it emits the same sounds from both speakers, so you hear mono in one speaker, you hear mono in the other speaker, but the overall thing that you're hearing is not true mono, so that is not really an argument anymore. I mean, what we're really hearing when we play a mono record is really a kind of fake stereo. And but in 2024, we should really by now have a, you know, pristine set of stereo mixes. You know, to listen to this, you know, this is an absolute stellar canon. It's the bloody Beatles, and we should have proper stereo mixes where there is instrument separation, where the vocals and the drums are in the middle, and the remixes that have been done so far have gone some way to correct that. They're not perfect by any means, but they have gone some way to correct that. Now, I know that the stereo remix is not the thing that drives sales for some people. Some people buy these box sets because they want the sessions, the outtakes. For me, you know, I think they're interesting to hear, but I don't go back to them that often. But I do go back to the main album. You know, some people, the reason for buying these box sets is to get the gorgeous books. You know, a whole book just dedicated to one album. You know, they've been fantastic, and that is the driving thing for, you know, other people that, you know, that buy these, you know, deluxe box sets. But I do think that they are the people that are buying the deluxe box sets are old fans, fans that have, you know, had these albums for years, want to hear these albums in proper stereo, and want all the gumph that goes with it. I don't think they're really being bought by young people generally. Not, I'm not saying across the board, but generally it's the older generation that are buying these, and you know, they have to get on with it because none of us are getting any younger. Anyway, we won't dwell on that. But you know, I know that when I talk about Apple, like listening to the fans, I know that they, you know, not all fans want the same things. You know, a lot of people want these box sets, but I know you want Peter Jackson to remix and clean up the Star Club Handbook tapes, whereas me, I've got no interest in that whatsoever. To me, you know, that was the Beatles as a cover band, and you know, we've got that historic document. I bought that album in 1977. I've probably played it less than 10 times, so I'm not really interested in that. I know that you want the Shea Stadium gig 1965. You want that. You want a video, cleaned up video of that, and you want a record of it to go with it, and a CD as well. So you know, everyone's got different priorities, and but you know, if Apple were to investigate these resources, they would get a feel for what the majority want, a high percentage, and I would say, you know, 7 or 8 people out of 10 probably want the next one in this series, next box set in this series. But talking about what the fans want, I do feel that we've become like a little bit entitled when we're talking about these box sets, because you know, when Sgt. Pepper came out originally, I'm not sure if they even knew that this was going to be a project. I don't think they ever said they're going to go through the whole, you know, canon and you know, do a box set for every album, and it's kind of you know, it's gathered momentum as it's come along, and now we're kind of expecting there to be a box set in this series every year. And you know, when we didn't get Rubber Soul, and I'll come to the reason why we didn't get Rubber Soul, but when we didn't get Rubber Soul in 2023, you know, I think a lot of people got a little bit hot under the collar and expected it in 2024. When it didn't come in 2024, people completely lost their shit. I mean, when I did my video, you know, for the announcement of the Capitol albums, you know, someone put in the comments on that video, they said, I want Rubber Soul and nothing else. And you don't get any more entitled than that. But we've come to expect these, and you know, no one from Apple ever said that we were going to get Rubber Soul next. The reason why they went to Revolver in 2022 was because there was no anniversary. Up until that point, they'd been coinciding these albums with anniversaries. There wasn't one in 2022, unless you count Love Me Do, 60th anniversary, but there was no album in 1962. So they looked at what was left, what they hadn't done a remix of, and picked the best album left in the canon, which was Revolver. And then we assumed that once Revolver had come out, they were then going backwards to Please Please Me. But you know, so that we were expecting Rubber Soul next, and but no one from Apple ever said that Rubber Soul was going to be the next one. We just assumed it. And when it didn't come, we got very shirty about it, didn't we? But so, you know, so in this video I want to look at what we've had so far, what the sort of the inconsistencies were, how they're going to bridge these gaps that they've left in the middle, like as in Magical Mystery Tour and Yellow Submarine. Because, you know, if they're doing a remix project now, then, you know, every song in the canon must have a remix, right? So you know, they've got to find a way of doing this. So we talk about, you know, how they might bridge that gap that they've missed. Okay, right, now before we get into the main video, I just wanted to say big warm welcome to all the new subscribers to the channel. Been quite a lot of you recently, so thank you very much for subscribing. Really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy the content here. If you just come across this video by accident, or you've been watching the channel for a while and you're not subscribed, you know, please consider supporting the channel by subscribing. I can give you two good reasons to subscribe. First reason is it's not going to cost you a penny. It's absolutely free. And secondly, if you are seeing this video for the first this channel for the first time, you'll notice when you get to the end of this video, if you make it to the end of this video, but if you make it to the end of this video, you'll notice you haven't seen any adverts mid-roll in this video, because I don't have adverts in the middle of my videos, which means that you can watch the video from start to finish without being interrupted by an advert for dog food. I think most people think this is a good thing. Others might quite like the idea of having adverts because it gives them a bit of respite from me banging on like this. So those are two good reasons. If you're not subscribed, please just hit that button. It only takes a second to subscribe, and it'd be great to have you along for the ride. Okay, let's get on with the video. So let's go back to 2017. In 2017, it was the 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper, a landmark album, and Apple decided to make a bit of a song and dance about it. And we got this fantastic box set, as you will remember. Now, what did we get in the box set? Well, we got quite a lot, actually. Came with this wallet. It had 4 CDs. You got a remix of the Sgt. Pepper album. You got 2 CDs of sessions and outtakes, and they even bunged in a CD of the mono Sgt. Pepper with a couple of bonus tracks added on. Strawberry Fields, Penny Lane, Day in the Life, a couple more that I can't quite remember, but all in mono, which was very nice. They even gave you a DVD and a Blu-ray, which both had the same amount of content on them, even had some video content on it as well. But the fact was that they had considered it enough to give you a DVD and a Blu-ray, being considerate to those people who hadn't made the transition from DVD to Blu-ray yet in 2017. So they were really thinking about this package. You know, they gave you the Pablo Franchi's poster that John had up in his house. They gave you a promotional poster for the album. Of course, you've got the cardboard cutouts, which have always come in useful, because if you ever need to lay your hands on a cardboard moustache at short notice, you'll know exactly where to go. But they also gave us this gorgeous book as well. Absolutely fantastic. So you know, a fantastic package that they thought through if you're a CD user. But what about if you are a vinyl user? What did buyers of vinyl get for this 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper? Just this, really. Just this, just a remix of the album. So, you know, if you wanted all the extras on vinyl, or, you know, you missed out on the mono LP box set and you wanted a mono Sgt. Pepper, you were out of luck. The fact that they gave all this sort of extra gumph in it, as well as the book, this is what makes me think that in 2017, when Sgt. Pepper came out, they considered this to be a one-off because it was Sgt. Pepper and it was a landmark album. I don't think there was any project at that stage to go through album by album and give us a deluxe box set. But yeah, inconsistent. If you're a vinyl user, you're out of luck. However, the CD package was fantastic. Now, the remix, you know, Giles didn't have the technology at his fingertips that he's got now. There was no MAL, machine learning software for him to use back then. But he did manage to correct quite a lot of things. You know, he did manage to get the vocals in the middle, the drums in the middle, and although he couldn't separate the tracks individually, I think he managed to do that by kind of doing what they do on the mono, and that is to replicate the drums and the vocals in both speakers, therefore giving the illusion that it comes from the middle. So he made great improvements. He also corrected a couple of the mistakes from the old stereo Sgt. Pepper mix. I think the guitar solo in Sgt. Pepper and a couple of other things, but we won't go into those now. But, you know, considering what he had at his fingertips at that time, he did quite well. Not as well as he would have been able to do if he'd had the the machine learning technology, but he did a fairly good job with that, I thought. So just to let you know, I'm not going to get everything out of every box. I just did it with Sgt. Pepper because I wanted to show the two posters, which I think kind of confirms that, because they included some posters in that and they didn't include any extra gumph with any of the other box sets, that when Sgt. Pepper came out, they were considering it a one-off. They weren't going to do, you know, every album. Anyway, moving on to 2018. 2018 is the 50th anniversary of the White Album, but in between the White Album and Sgt. Pepper, there's Magical Mystery Tour. There wasn't anything for that. They completely skimmed over it, missed it out. I think I know the reason why, probably because there wasn't enough time. If they were going to hit the deadline for the White Album, which is absolutely loaded with material, then something had to give. So there was no Magical Mystery Tour box set, but 2018 saw the release of the White Album. Fantastic set. This one came, different format from Pepper. This one came as a book with the CDs inside, but obviously you've got the remix of the double album, which was really good, mostly really good remix of that, with a couple of exceptions. Maybe Helter Skelter was a little bit but you've got a 27 track CD of the Isha demos in here, plus 3 CDs of sessions from the White Album. There was also a Blu-ray, no DVD this time, but the Blu-ray did include the mono White Album. So the CD package was utterly fantastic, of course, and you know it is a book, a gorgeous book as well. But what about if you were a vinyl buyer? So vinyl buyers got this, and this contained obviously a remix of the White Album, the double album. It also had a second double album in it of the Isha demos, but no vinyl for the sessions at all. No book for vinyl buyers at all. So again, inconsistencies between the packages. So moving on to 2019, it's the 50th anniversary of Abbey Road, but in between that and the White Album there is Yellow Submarine, which got completely overlooked. But when Abbey Road came out, again they changed the format again. We then went to a slipcase format. So we've had a closed box, a book with CDs inside, and now we've got another book with CDs inside, but now it's in a slipcase. Now Abbey Road, you know, remix of the album, a Blu-ray included, no DVD but a Blu-ray, and 2 CDs of sessions. That was the CD package. Now the album package, which looked like that, had obviously a remix of the main album, plus a double album of the sessions. So for the first time ever with these box sets, the musical content was consistent. It was the same for CD buyers as it was for LP buyers, but of course there was no book in the LP box. There was a kind of a 4-page pamphlet which looked like this, included in that, which had the intro from Paul McCartney and Giles Martin, and it had a little bit of gumph about the sessions. So musically consistent, but no book for vinyl buyers. So vinyl buyers miss out again. So the next box set came in 2021. Let It Be, the 50th anniversary of Let It Be, which was to be celebrated in 2020, obviously didn't happen because of COVID, but in 2021 it did come out, and this was the CD version. Now they changed the format again. We've still got a slipcase, but rather than having the CDs in a book, we go back to the wallet format, and what a treat they gave us. So it was a 6 CD package, obviously a remix of the Let It Be album, which in my opinion, it turned out to be the best remix that Giles Martin had done to date. Very good remix. Then we got 2 CDs of sessions from the Get Back sessions. We got the original Get Back album, the 1969 mix, although it didn't turn out to be entirely the 1969 mix. There were some 1970 mixes in there as well. But the Glyn Johns 1969 mix. And then we got an EP in it. So a 4-track CD came with this, and that had the single version of Let It Be remixed, and Don't Let Me Down, the B-side of Get Back, remixed. So that, and it also had 1970 Glyn John mixes of Across the Universe and I Me Mine. But it then raised an eyebrow straight away as to, well, if they're starting to remix some standalone singles, i.e. Let It Be and the B-side of Get Back, Don't Let Me Down, why didn't they do that for why didn't they do that for the White Album? Why was there no remix of Hey Jude and Revolution? Why was there no remix of Lady Madonna and The Inner Light? When they did Abbey Road, why didn't they do why didn't they do a remix of The Ballad of John and Yoko and Old Brown Shoe? So again, inconsistencies. They thought about this. This was a, oh, I've got an idea. It doesn't matter that we didn't do it before, but let's do it now. So again, not so much thought going into these packages. The good thing about Let It Be is that the LP version was identical. The only difference, well, I say it was identical. The only difference, which is the obvious difference, is that there was no Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is in the CD package, but not in the LP package. You wouldn't expect to see a Blu-ray in there, but the LP package got a book, as did the CD package. So musically and content-wise, it was identical, apart from the Blu-ray, which you wouldn't expect to get a Blu-ray in the LP set either. So we're making a bit of progress here. So 2022 comes along, and there's no anniversary. There's no 50th anniversary, and there's no 60th anniversary in 2022. So what do? Like I said at the top of the video, they look at what's left in the core canon and pick the best album from what's left, which is Revolver. Completely threw us for what we were expecting in the future. But when Revolver came out, a fabulous package this was, and the best remix that Giles Martin has done today. He's now got the MAL technology, so he can separate everything. And Revolver was an album that really suffered. The stereo album really suffered from that panning, dreadful panning, and he corrected a few of the mistakes. The backward guitar solo in I'm Only Sleeping as well. The LP and CD versions identical. You get a book again with the LP version as you do in the CD version. The CD, both versions had a remix of a Revolver album, as I've said. It had 2 CDs or 2 LPs of sessions from the Revolver sessions, outtakes. It had the mono Revolver on CD and LP. That was really welcomed, especially the LP version. And it had an EP as well. Now, one of the complaints when Let It Be came out was, why did you give us a 4-track EP on 12-inch vinyl? Because, why don't you give us an EP that's EP sized and save some money? And that's what they did with Revolver. They gave us an EP sized EP. Paperback Biter and Rain, remixed in stereo and in mono, so on an EP. So that was fantastic. So you would think, both packages are consistent, both with content and musical content. So both had the book, both had all the same music. You think Beatles fans would be happy with that. We've finally got a box set that is consistent, and but no. What did they do this time? They didn't include a Blu-ray. And I can remember when this was announced, there were people saying that is a deal breaker for me, because people love their spatial audio mixes. I personally don't. I'm not bothered about them. But a lot of people do. And people were saying they weren't going to buy the box set because it didn't have a Blu-ray in it, which I didn't really understand, because most of the people that were saying this were kind of my age and had been listening to music for 50 years without a Blu-ray, and all of a sudden it was more important than the actual album. But there you go. So people weren't happy that there wasn't a Blu-ray, so that was their misdemeanor with Revolver. So 2023 comes along, and we're all expecting Rubber Soul for no reason whatsoever, apart from the fact that we had decided ourselves that because Revolver had been, the last Beatles album to get the deluxe box treatment, the next one would be Rubber Soul, because they were now clearly going from Revolver back to Please Please Me. But no one from Apple ever said that Rubber Soul was going to be the next one, and it wasn't. And when it didn't come, we were all really disappointed. Now, 2023 was also the year that Now and Then, the last Beatles single, was released, but Apple, in their infinite wisdom, decided that Now and Then wasn't able to stand on its own as a standalone single, even though it had been #1 in the UK. They decided it needed a bigger vehicle to carry it, and that bigger vehicle drove up to the drive very happily, and it came in the shape of the 50th anniversary of the Red and the Blue album, 1962, 1966, 1967 to 70. That was going to be where they were going to put Now and Then. Not only were they going to do that, but they were going to expand the Red and the Blue album to make them to celebrate their 50th anniversary. They were going to change them from a double album into a triple album, although they still stayed as a double CD. But so they added some random tracks to the album. But what they didn't do was on the Blue album, for a start, they were quite happy to still call it 1967 to 70, even though Now and Then was a track from 2023. I don't know why they didn't just call it the Blue album, because everyone calls it the Blue album. That would have got rid of that problem. The other thing that they didn't do was they didn't include Real Love or Free as a Bird on the Blue album. The whole premise of the Red and the Blue album was that it contained every A-side of a Beatles single plus key album tracks. And Real Love and Free as a Bird were A-sides of Beatles singles. They should have been on it. That was another mistake. With the Blue album, they didn't do many remixes. They did a few. I'm trying to think what they were now. Magical Mystery Tour, Fall on the Hill, I Am the Walrus. They did a few, but not that many. Not that many. Most of the Blue album came from the remixes of the box sets that had already been out: Sgt. Pepper, the White Album, Abbey Road, Let It Be. What they didn't do was they're on the Blue album. There are some standalone singles like Lady Madonna and Hey Jude. They didn't bother doing remixes of those. They just included the last remix that they did of those in 2015 for the One Plus album. The Red album, they did much better with the Red album. The Red album had lots of really great remixes on it and gave us a real flavour of what was to come for the remixed early Beatles albums. So the Red album was much more successful and proved to be much more use. They they made the both albums into a triple album, both on CD and LP. So musically, they both had the same content, but on the CD version of the Red and Blue album, they integrated the new tracks, the additional tracks, chronologically with the old tracks, which is probably the right thing to do. On the LP version, they just stuck it on a third LP and put it in the slipcase, and that was it. They couldn't be bothered. They couldn't be bothered to rearrange the tracks on the Blue album. Lazy, really lazy. So the Red and the Blue album were of mixed fortunes, but really, a bit of a rushed. A rushed effort that they didn't really think through at all. One of the main reasons why I'm asking the question, do Apple really know what they're doing? Having said all that out loud about the Red and the Blue album, I think if I had any hair left, I would now be pulling it out, just thinking about how slapdash and rushed and without thought those the Red and the Blue albums were last year. But that has gone now, so we need to let it go. But what we need to talk about now is how Apple go forward. So if there's anyone here watching from Apple, come closer. I'm going to try and help you. Right, so we're now in 2024. We know we're not getting Rubber Soul this year. We're getting the Capitol albums. And, I think that if Apple had done their research properly, in the way that I suggested earlier, YouTube channels, Facebook groups, forums, that sort of thing, I don't think anyone was asking for the Capitol albums from 1964 to be released. I don't think that was top of anyone's hit list, really. Look, it's not that I don't think that it's important. What they're doing is, they're celebrating the 60 years since the Beatles arrived in America, but that happened in February 1964. So in February 2024, that was the time to release these albums. You didn't need to do a box set. You could have just put these albums back in print. People could have just bought them as they wanted, either buy all of them or buy one or two of them, etc., etc. It didn't need to be this year's box set. Now, what you've done by putting that out as this year's box set, you've missed an anniversary. You've missed the 60th anniversary of A Hard Day's Night and Beatles for Sale. Now, next year is 2025. That is the anniversary of Rubber Soul, but it's also the anniversary of Help. So what I think we need to do in 2025 is we need to start doubling up these box sets. Help and Rubber Soul could come out. We could have a stereo remix of both albums. We could have a mono release, mono album in the box of both albums. We can get an album of outtakes from each album and a book that covers both albums. And I don't see that there's a problem with combining two albums in the same book, because Apple have done it before. When they did the books for the mono box set and the stereo box set, in 2012 and 2014, they included a bit about each album. So why not? Why can't a book share two albums? We have to think about the same for Magical Mystery Tour and Yellow Submarine, two albums that Apple missed at the very start of this series. I know some of the tracks have been remixed on Magical Mystery Tour, on the Blue album, but there's still quite a few that haven't, including Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane and things like Your Mother Should Know and Flying and Blue Jay Way, etc., etc. So that that again, these could share an album. That obviously there's a mono Magical Mystery Tour can be included in this, and again a shared book, but for 2025 it works for an anniversary, but after that you are buggered. There's no anniversaries for ages. So when you talk about the remaining Beatles albums that are left, Please Please Me with the Beatles, Hard Day's Night and Beatles for Sale, the anniversaries of those are 2033 and 2034. And I don't want to be blunt, but the audience, the core audience could be diminishing, and those of us that are still here are going to be deaf as posts anyway, and we won't care whether you've remixed it or you've not remixed it. And you can even stick a few tracks by Herman's Helmets. That's what they should have been called, Herman's Hermits, on them, and we wouldn't even notice. We wouldn't notice the difference. So we need to get these done before anniversaries, and I think doubling up, as I say, stereo remix, monos albums included in the box, an album of sessions for each album in the box, and a lovely book. But what you've not got to forget about Apple is the B-sides. The B-sides, they've got to be included somewhere as well. So you know, presuming you're not gonna do a past masters box set, you know, you've got to figure out a way. Now, it's okay for those early singles, you can include all standalone singles in those box sets you've got left, but you've still got to think about where are we getting a proper remix of Lady Madonna and the Inner Light, Ballad of John and Yoko, Old Brown Shoe, You Know My Name, Look Up the Number. These are the things that you've got to come up with a way of doing it. Anyway, that is it. I think the answer to my question is no. Apple don't really know what they're doing, but you know, there is time to improve, so let's hope that they do. You know, please tell me down in the comments how you think Apple should, you know, proceed with this project. Personally, I don't think that there's any need to put in you know, Blu-rays of the films, you know, Hard Day's Night Help, Magical Mystery Tour. They are out there already. And if they include them in the boxes, then they're just increasing the cost of the boxes. But you tell me what you think down in the comments. You know, I love to read your comments. I will respond to all your comments, of course. Okay, well, that's it from me. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.